Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everybody. Ahmad Abu Laila with you.
مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.
Our lesson today is grammar. Grade 11, Unit 2, Lesson 10. Present Perfect Tense. Present Perfect Tense, Students Book, page 25. Our objectives: at the end of the period, students should have matched the sentences with the correct uses of the present perfect tense. Number 2, revise the uses of the present tenses. Number 3, rewritten 5 sentences using the correct present sentences. Students book page 25, exercise A, B, C, and D. Grammar, present perfect simple tense. Watch the following video that explains the form and uses of the present perfect tense, then do exercise A.
This lesson is about the present perfect. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to form a present perfect and when to use a present perfect. But before we get started, it's good to know how to conjugate the verb to have. For the singular forms, I have, you have, he has, she has, it has. And for the plural forms, we have, you have, they have. It's also good to know that in the English language there are regular and irregular verbs, and it is advisable that you study the most commonly used irregular verbs. Now let's get started. Take a look at these sentences. I've painted the door yellow. They've paid for dinner themselves. Both these sentences are in the present perfect tense. How to form a present perfect? Let's have a look at the regular verbs. For the regular verbs, we use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle. You can make a past participle by adding ed to the infinitive form of the verb. Now let's have a look at these singular forms. I have worked there. You've listened carefully. He has cleared the table. She has placed it on the floor. It has snowed. For the plural forms, we have walked to school. You have watched the tennis match. They have marked the tests. Now we need to pay extra attention to verbs that end in an E, such as live, close and wipe. For these verbs, we use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle, but the past participle is made by simply adding a D to the verb. Look at the examples. I've lived here for quite some time now. He has closed the window. They have wiped the floor. We also need to pay attention to verbs that end in a Y, especially those preceded by a consonant, such as spy and study, because we change the Y into an I. For example, he has spied on his neighbours, and we have studied hard. Now let's have a look at the irregular verbs. For the irregular verbs, we also use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle, but for the irregular verbs, the past participle has a unique present perfect form. Take a look at the examples. I've built that shed with my own 2 hands. The infinitive form of the verb is to build with a D. She has bought some flowers at the market. The infinitive form of the verb is to buy. We have run the marathon. The infinitive form of the verb is to run. Now let's have a look at the present perfect in questions. First, for the regular verbs. Again, we use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle. Has she talked to him yet? Have you kicked the ball? Have they ever worked on a farm? For the irregular verbs, we also use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle, but now the unique present perfect form. For example, has she quit her job yet? Have you ever driven a car? Have they ever paid for dinner? Let's have a look at the present perfect in negations. For the regular verbs, again the auxiliary verb to have, and we add not, contracting it into haven't or hasn't and the past participle. I haven't listened to the news. It hasn't rained since Friday. They haven't closed the window. For the irregular verbs, we also use the auxiliary verb to have and not, contracting it into haven't and hasn't and the past participle. For example, she hasn't quit her job. The infinitive form of the verb is to quit. You haven't ever driven a car. The infinitive form of the verb is to drive. And they haven't paid for dinner. The infinitive form of the verb is to pay. Now let's have a look at the present perfect in use. We use the present perfect for things that happened in the past, but it is not important when they happened. I've been to Scotland. It's not important when I've been there, it's important that I've been to Scotland. They've decided to buy a car. It's not important when they decided it, the decision alone is important. We also use the present perfect for things that started in the past but that have continued in the present. For example, Bob and Jack have known each other for ages. For example, they met in the 1970s and they are still friends. They have lived there since 2011, so they moved there in 2011 and they've continued to live there. We also use the present perfect when the following words are in a sentence: for, yet, never, ever, just, already, since. Here are some examples. I've lived here for 3 years. We haven't seen that film yet. Have you ever watched a football game?
Okay, now students book page 25, exercise A. Present tense, present perfect, simple. Match the extracts from the announcements on page 22 and 23 with the uses of the present perfect simple from A to C, then underline more examples of the present perfect simple in the article. But before that, you should know the present perfect simple is used for what. Number A on the right, to talk about an action or actions which happened in the past, but the time it or they happened is not mentioned. B, to talk about an action state that started and finished in the past, and the results are obvious in the present. C, to talk about an action state that started in the past and continues up to the present. The emphasis is on the outcome. Now we'll move to the left. Number 1, since. Then it has grown more and more popular with hundreds of thousands of fans worldwide. Number 2, this year at the Gosford Beach Hotel, we have set up the GP Lost Property Office. Number 3, we are there to find any metal objects that have dropped into the sand and to return them to their rightful owners. Okay, that's right. Number 2. Okay. Number 3 is A. This is the present perfect simple use. Look at the examples from activity A again and complete the rule. present perfect simple, subject plus have or has plus past participle. Good. This is a rule. We should learn it. Students book, page 25, exercise C. Read the extracts from the announcements on page 22-23. Identify the tenses of the verbs in blue and answer the question. Number A, this year, for example, we are traveling to Mongolia in search of the mysterious almas. Number B, the UG's group digs take place twice a month. Number C, if you have always loved monsters and chasing the great unknown, then cryptozoology is for you. Okay. Which of the verbs in blue refers to an action or state that started in the past and is the case now? Good, very good. Number C, right. Number 2, which of the verbs in blue refers to something that happens repeatedly? Very well, B, right. Number 3, which of the verbs in blue refers to something that is arranged to happen, take place in the future? Number A. Very good. Now, use the prompt to make sentences using either the present simple, present progressive, or present perfect simple. And this exercise in page 25. Exercise D. My brother win 5 math competitions 2017. Yes, you can arrange and correct the sentence. Try to choose the correct tense. Yes, very good. My brother has won 5 math competitions since 2017. This is present perfect simple. Now, number 2. We not be abroad so far this year. Yes, we haven't been abroad so far this year. Also, this present perfect simple. Number 3, I not have hobbies at the moment. Look at the moment and try to choose the correct tense. Yes, very good. I don't have any hobbies at the moment. Number 4, you visit your grandmother this weekend. Are you visiting your grandmother this weekend? Number 5, how long we need to wait the bus arrives. I think this sentence is very clear. How long do we need to wait until the bus arrives? Goodbye and thank you.
مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.